There's a village in Iran where every home is carved directly into cone-shaped volcanic rock, built by refugees hiding from an invading army 700 years ago. And people still live inside that same rock today. There's a settlement in Colombia, built entirely on water, so far from land that reaching it takes over an hour by boat through silent mangrove swamp. There's a town in Greece that can only be entered through a single tunnel cut through solid cliff, because an earthquake split it away from the mainland more than 1,000 years ago. None of these places are ruins. None of them are recreations built for tourists. Every one of them still has people living inside it right now, using the same walls, the same paths, and in some cases, the same survival methods their ancestors used centuries ago. Let's get into it. Kandovan, Iran. In the mountains of northwestern Iran, there's a village made almost entirely of stone cones. Hundreds of them, rising from 30 to over 130 feet, packed tightly together on a steep hillside. From a distance, Kandovan looks less like a settlement and more like a cluster of stone beehives. The reason people started living inside this rock goes back to the 13th century, when Mongol invasions swept across the region. Refugees fleeing the violence carved directly into the volcanic formations to hide, and over time, what started as a hiding place became permanent housing. The rock isn't just shelter, it's insulation, keeping homes cool in summer and warm in winter without any mechanical heating or cooling system. On nights when snowstorms seal off every path into the village, families and their livestock survive together inside these stone chambers, sharing warmth the same way people here have done for roughly 700 years. Nueva Vanessia, Colombia. Deep inside the Santa Marta marshlands in Colombia, there's a village that barely touches land at all. Nueva Vanessia sits in the middle of the swamp, reachable only by boat, through a maze of mangrove forest that can take over an hour to cross. Wooden homes stand on stilts above the water, connected by narrow canals instead of streets. Residents travel almost exclusively by small boat, even for the shortest trips. For generations, that water served as a natural defense, keeping the community separated from threats on the mainland. In 2000, the village was violently attacked, and residents were forced to abandon it completely. For years it sat empty, but the people who had built their lives on that water eventually returned, rebuilding their homes on the same stilts, in the same swamp, choosing the isolation that had once protected them all over again. Ushguli, Georgia. At more than 6,800 feet in the Caucasus Mountains, Ushguli looks less like a village and more like a chessboard frozen in place. Dozens of medieval stone towers rise above the valley, not built for decoration, but as defensive fortresses, designed to protect families from avalanches and enemy attacks centuries ago. For 6 months of the year, snowstorms can completely block the only road leading in, sealing the village off from the rest of the country entirely. That isolation did more than protect the towers. It preserved an entire culture, a distinct regional identity, and a rare language that, to this day, has no written alphabet. Today, a multi-day trekking route connects Ushguli to the nearest town, drawing travelers who want to walk into one of the few places in Europe that spent centuries almost completely cut off from everywhere else. Gasadelure, Faroe Islands. On the edge of the North Atlantic, Gasadelure was once known as the loneliest village in the Faroe Islands. Sitting directly beside the ocean, the village was trapped behind steep cliffs that made boat access nearly impossible for centuries. For generations, the only way to reach the outside world was a dangerous mountain pass with nearly vertical slopes. The route residents had to cross just to receive food, supplies, and mail. The isolation became so extreme that the population once dropped below 20 people, and visitors could stay for weeks without encountering a stranger. That changed in 2004, when a tunnel was finally carved directly through the mountain, connecting Gasadelure to the rest of the archipelago for the first time in its history. Cars can reach it today. But standing between those cliffs, beside a waterfall that drops straight into the ocean, the village still carries the feeling of a place that spent centuries completely alone. Wae Rebo, Indonesia. Hidden at nearly 4,000 feet in the mountains of Flores, Indonesia, Wae Rebo is a village made up of exactly 7 houses. Nothing more. Each structure is built entirely from bamboo and palm fiber. No metal, no nails, no modern materials of any kind. Fewer than 200 people live here, completely disconnected from electrical grids and any form of modern transportation. The only way to reach the village is a continuous 4-hour trek through dense tropical forest and steep mountain terrain. A single heavy rainstorm is enough to block the trail entirely with mud and fallen debris. That extreme isolation has forced the community into complete self-sufficiency, preserving a way of life that has remained almost unchanged for generations. Built around exactly 7 houses. Mawsynram, India. On the Khasi hills of northeastern India, facing directly toward the Bay of Bengal, Mawsynram holds the record for the highest average rainfall anywhere on the planet. Average yearly rainfall here can exceed 470 inches, enough to turn the air into dense fog and erase visibility for days at a time. Ordinary umbrellas and raincoats are close to useless. Instead, residents rely on a traditional shield woven from bamboo and banana leaves, worn over the head and back during storms. The humidity is aggressive enough that metal rusts quickly, concrete grows a coating of moss, and fabric can develop mold after a single night left out. From June through August, roads dissolve into mud, and the fog becomes thick enough that the village is almost completely sealed off from the rest of the country. Not by mountains, not by water, but by rain that simply never stops. Karimabad, Pakistan. In the Hunza Valley of northern Pakistan, Karimabad sits like an oasis beside a deep abyss, encircled by ice-covered mountains rising more than 23,000 feet, forming a natural wall between the village and the modern world. Before paved roads reached this valley, the only way in was a series of thin wooden planks fixed directly onto vertical cliffs, where a single misstep could send a traveler falling into the ravine below. That level of isolation, sustained for thousands of years, allowed something rare to survive here: a distinct local language with no clear connection to any other known language on Earth. During winter, heavy snow and frequent landslides seal Karimabad inside a frozen barrier for months. To get through it, residents rely on melted glacier water and underground stores of dried meat, chestnuts, and apricots, survival methods carried forward from long before any road reached this valley at all. Jian Valley, China. Inside a canyon in China, on the site of an abandoned granite quarry, there's a settlement that looks like it grew directly out of the rock face. Jian Valley has no streets and almost no flat open ground. Instead, wooden houses are bound together by a network of walkways, staircases, and corridors, hanging directly along the cliff. From a distance, the structures resemble giant bird nests, tucked into the folds of the canyon, where fog gets trapped by the narrow, deep terrain surrounding it on every side. When night falls, thousands of lanterns along the cliff face light up simultaneously, turning the entire valley into what looks like a vertical maze of light, suspended above the gorge. Moving through it during the day means walking between cold rock, sheer drops, and waterfalls, in a place where phone signal is frequently blocked entirely by the surrounding cliff walls. Iquitos, Peru. Locked between massive rivers and the dense Amazon rainforest of Peru, Iquitos holds a distinction no other major city in the world shares. It cannot be reached by road at all. Leave the city by boat for about 15 minutes, and the rainforest rises into a dark, thick wall of trees that blocks any possibility of land expansion in every direction. The only ways to reach Iquitos are by plane, or by a journey lasting several days along the Amazon River itself. Along the water's edge, thousands of wooden houses stand on tall stilts or rest on floating rafts, built specifically to survive flood seasons that can raise water levels by more than 30 feet. When the flood reaches close to rooftop level, residents adapt, moving by small boat, swimming when needed, and living on floating wooden platforms suspended directly above the rising Amazon water. Monemvasia, Greece. Off the coast of Greece, there's a fortified city hiding behind a massive slab of barren rock. A rock that spent centuries deceiving people into thinking nothing was there at all. This entire landform was once physically connected to the mainland, until a powerful earthquake in 375 AD split it away completely, leaving it standing alone in the sea. The name Monemvasia translates roughly to single entrance, and it's literal. The only way into the city is through one tunnel, carved directly through the cliff wall. Inside, narrow, winding stone alleys form a deliberate maze, designed centuries ago specifically to confuse invaders and make ambushes harder to execute during sieges. Residents survived long blockades by farming on hidden terraces and storing rainwater across the dry, rocky slopes. Even today, modern vehicles are effectively banned inside the city. Every good, every construction material still has to be moved by hand through the same single tunnel that has been the only way in for more than 1,600 years. 10 villages, a settlement carved into volcanic rock by people hiding from an army 7 centuries ago. A floating community that survived a tragedy and quietly rebuilt itself on the same water. A village of medieval stone towers that preserved a language with no written alphabet. A cliffside settlement that stayed cut off until a tunnel was finally cut through solid mountain in 2004. 7 houses, built entirely without metal, 4 hours from the nearest road. A place so wet the rain itself seals it off from the rest of the country. An oasis, guarded by peaks over 23,000 feet high. A wooden city grown directly into the walls of an abandoned quarry. The largest city on Earth that no road has ever reached. And a fortress that an earthquake tore away from the mainland, leaving exactly one way in. Every one of these places had 100 reasons to disappear. None of them did.